Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment. That was the intro from my Joker monologue, which didn't really get many views. Anyway, how are we all doing? Welcome, people. This is your Manchester United breaking news show. We have had Ruben Amorim speaking to the media ahead of the game against Ipswich. We also have further updates on Ineos and the shambolic kind of news around their whole situation. Osimhen, we've had some stuff around him from a very reliable journalist in Turkey, which I definitely want to get into. And I want to talk about the goal-scoring problems at Manchester United as we currently speak in this moment in time, and go through a couple of the players who are struggling, and maybe the reasons why they're struggling as well, and add some kind of context to that. So that's going to be fun. But we'll start off with Amorim's press conference. Just finished, I want to say maybe just over an hour ago, about 45 minutes, something along the lines of that. Now, going into this, you knew the questions that were going to be asked, were the majority were going to be about the redundancies and how he feels in terms of, staff being let go, people that he's interacted with, and that kind of stuff. And then there was literally a couple of, maybe one or two questions on Ipswich and the Ipswich game, which I get it, people want to get the headlines, people want to get certain lines out of him, and that is the trending topic at the moment. And I suppose me, by doing this show and talking about it as well, is, a similar thing. It is the trending thing at the minute, it is the ongoing thing. But I also want to discuss stuff about the Ipswich game as well, because it's important, right? And I think I'll touch on this a little bit later on. But even the league position at the minute, in terms of money and cash and things being generated, is important as to where you are in the league. The higher up you are, the more money that you get. So it all starts really with performances on the pitch. And Amorim knows this. But he gets asked about jobs being cut, highlighting the issues. He says, that is clear. We have to address all the problems in the club. But one important piece is to understand how we get in this situation. It has to do a lot with the lack of success in football team, big engine of the club. Now, he is right on that. But also at the same time, he's never going to come out and go, well, the people at the very top who basically still hire me, I've ran it like a shit show for years, so we're having to make all these amendments, and basically it's got down to the bottom of the pile of shit, where this is, we have to build up again. That's what's happened. He's never ever going to say that, because it's the people who employ him. So he's focusing more on the lack of success in football and how we're playing on the pitch. And yes, I think if you go back through managers that we've had, there has been periods where we've had moments where it's been really good. FA Cup wins, Carabao Cup wins, we've had finals, with each manager almost. Although we had a final, obviously, in Verdansk that we lost, but we won an FA Cup and a Carabao Cup with Erik ten Hag. We won multiple trophies with Jose Mourinho. We won an FA Cup with Van Gaal. Moyes got to the last 16 in the Champions League, probably his best achievement whilst he was at the club for a short period of time. But we've had moments along the way, and those moments, at least in my opinion, have papered over the cracks of what's actually happening to this club. Because it feels like we all kind of knew the trajectory of it and the way that it was going and how bad it was. But I don't think there was a lot of people who actually understood how bad and how severe the finances was. Now, there's a couple of people calling this out and saying it's scaremongering, right? I'll also dive into that later on. I thought Kieran Maguire, who was on Rio's show, Rio Presents, done a fantastic job of breaking this down and explaining it. And obviously, I would implore anyone to go give that a listen, the Kieran Maguire section specifically, because he really breaks it down and really offers perspective. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And he's saying the finances aren't as bad as what people are making it out. But again, I'll touch on that a little bit later. Obviously, Amorim knows the situation. He probably knew it coming into the club. I'd imagine Ineos laid out the full blueprint for him. It says, look, we want you here for a good 2-3 years, building this club back up. Whilst you are doing this, there are going to be some big changes, just to let you know. Hopefully they said that. If they didn't, I'd be pretty fucking worried. Hopefully they went through the plan with them and this is what's going to happen. We're going to have to make cuts here, here, here. You'll still have a budget for the summer. It won't be as big as it's been previously. But because of the nature we're going down, signing players like Patrick Dorgu, and obviously Amorim is used to it at Sporting. I think his net spend at Sporting was like minus 180 million. They was creating superstars like João Paulinho and Nuno Mendes. He was building them up at Sporting, and then obviously they went off and had the careers that they've had, right? So you're creating all these big players, and then he's had to let him go. So Amorim is used to this environment almost. You know, when we had Sam Fonseca on, who's a Sporting fan, also known as Sporting Sam, when he came on, he explained to us, literally, the day Amorim walked through the door, basically, like, this is what happened at Sporting. He came in, there was loads of players that really didn't suit. He let go of some big experienced players as well at the club. Some big players who were favourites there. And just, nope, sit a bit. This is my way. This is going to work. This is the process. And obviously it did work in Portugal. He won league titles. He broke the mould of Porto and Benfica and these teams, right? So it's proven that he's done it there. But Manchester United and the Premier League is a whole different world and a whole different beast. Now, maybe he doesn't get us back to winning Premier League titles. Maybe he's the man in between that gets us back competing in the top 4 consistently. And then maybe there's someone who takes it for the next step in there. I don't know. Maybe he is the in-between man. You can't really say at the minute because the way results are going, it's a struggle. But it's hard to judge him until he actually gets a few players in. Look at the impact that Dorgu had on that left-hand side. Completely open now. You know, that's one threat, that extra threat that Everton had to deal with. If it's Dalot there, he's cutting inside all the time. He's never bombing forward. You have to worry about that. So everything is in front of you as a team. Likewise, the opposite side, you bring in a Kenda as your right wing back. You've got 2 problems. Do you know what I mean? Like, you start layering and start bringing in players who are used to this system, and the football will change. I'm personally convinced on that. I don't know what you guys think. I'll get into your comments in a moment. But again, the same issues. We're playing Ipswich tomorrow. We spoke about team news. We're sat there kind of pondering, is anybody going to be available? Is anybody fit? Is anyone returning? We've heard news about multiple players, multiple times, and still no. He said, I think it's the same. Nobody's recovering for this game. They are improving. Players like Luke Shaw and Mason Mount, I promise you, if they could stay fit, like consistent, they would be such a huge bonus for this team. That left-sided centre-half, Luke Shaw, would be incredible there. I've seen him in the back 5 before. I've seen him in a back 4, pocket Haaland for United. So let alone a back 3, he would be... But we can't bank on these players. You know, Mount cost us 60 million quid. 60 million quid. And we can't get a game out of him. We cannot get him even on the pitch for fucking more than 20 minutes. It's crazy. And he would be really good in this system. Look at Amorim's quotes on Mount when he first came in. He was saying, I love this player. You only known him a couple of days. I'm telling you, he would be key. But they're never available. So, as well as recruitment, as well as players not being available, this is why we're seeing what we're seeing at the minute going into these games. Am I any more confident going to Ipswich tomorrow? I don't know. What are you lot saying? I don't know. We're going to do the preview for the Ipswich game later on, probably drop around 6, 7 o'clock. So I'm really interested to get into that. Because obviously, on reflection as well, it's Amorim's first game, isn't it? Well, it was his first game when he came in. He drew. You had the situation where I think Johnny Evans played left-sided centre-half, and obviously with him being the age that he's at, wasn't quick enough to react, pushes up and gets caught, and I think Omari Hutchinson scores. And that's been a similar pattern that's happened with a few of the other players as well due to pace. And again, it all falls back to profiling the players and having the right ones in there. Speedy, strong, outsided centre-backs who are good on the ball. That's what we need. And we don't really have a player who has all of that combined. I think Lenny Yoro is someone who can grow into that, but we don't have a polished version right now, in my opinion. He also spoke about Old Trafford difficulties, saying the supporters are amazing. Every time you go to one game at Old Trafford, you feel the support until the end. It is a new game. It could be a new story, so let's go forward for the game. On the criticism of the Everton display, he says, I know the players know there was a lack of intensity. We improved not a lot in the second half. It changed the energy a little bit. I understand all the critics. If you watch the game, you have to accept it. So he knows. I thought what Paul Scholes said was really, really good. And I think he's had a couple of stinkers recently and some of the stuff that he's been saying. I think he's been extremely overcritical of Matthias De Ligt. I think De Ligt's been pretty solid, unless I'm missing something. Again, tune in with your opinions, and I'll get into the chat in a minute. But I thought what he said about the Everton game, because people were kind of applauding the comeback and Bruno dragging the team back to, to at least pick up a point at Goodison Park. But he said, well, where was that for the first fucking 45 minutes? You win the game by doing that. None of them turned up for the first 60 minutes. That's the obviously they got a result at the end, or a draw, or whatever you want to call it, and it's nice to get back into it. But they shouldn't be in that position in the first place. And this has been a theme for as long as I can remember, where we only play in halves or moments under Ten Hag. I remember under Ole, we would go into a game and you would know, when we did a preview for another game, we would say, probably going to be a bad first half, come back into it the second, end up winning the game or drawing. Happened every time. So you're seeing all these patterns that I'm talking about consistently, week in, week out, happen. So changing the culture of that and really grinding it out is almost, you can use like the analogy of like mold to remove it, you know? It's hard. It's hard for a coach to do that, especially a young coach who doesn't really have much experience, you know? He's only 39 years old, don't forget. He's just literally coming into the game. Barely any skin in it whatsoever. So, I actually feel sorry for Amorim, to be fair. I feel like... Sorry, I just got a text. Bear with me a second. Well, don't you just love it when you're like midpoint and you're really riffing and you're like, yeah, 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 and then you get a text and you're like, oh, right, okay, what's going on? I don't know what's going on there. I'll keep an eye on it. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on Amorim's press conferences. I don't know if you guys have managed to watch in full depth, but yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. I'm going to touch on Ineos because there's still a lot of stuff ongoing at the moment, and I think they're getting a lot of shit. And I get it. So let me put this out first and foremost. Let me preempt it. Okay. I get what they're doing. The staff members that they're getting rid of, I'm not a fan of it whatsoever. Me and Sam have spoken about that at length extensively and repeated ourselves multiple times. It's bad. It shouldn't have to happen. It's happening basically because of the Glazers, right? And what they're doing in a minute, the Glazers, I've seen bits and bobs about them, but there's more heat on Ineos than there is the Glazers. Ineos making these decisions because of the Glazers. I don't think people understand. I think obviously some of it you could argue and you could sort of a debate you could say, but if you look at it, just to offer some perspective on this, right? So we know that the Glazers borrowed around £600 million, right? To buy Manchester United, and then they loaded all of that debt onto the club. Since then, we've paid £834 million in interest, 138% of the original loan. The debt is up 21% to £731 million and is still growing as we speak right now. And the Glazer family in total have taken £200 million in dividends from the club revenue and never injected any cash themselves. A lot of people forget about the cash that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has injected as well to help keep finances afloat in here. You know, there's a lot of stuff. The Glazers have fucking ruined this club. Ruined it. And I'm watching and I'm like, I get it. You know, Ineos and the kind of the PR they're putting out around it isn't great and they're not at fault and they have made bad decisions, right? That is a fact. They have made bad decisions. I agree with that. And I haven't been Ineos' big fan. I had concerns if you look at how it went at Nice. You know, there was a shit show there when they first came in. Granted, now they're third in the league and they're doing all right. So, again, we'll keep tabs on that. But it was a shit show when they first initially came in. They're used to running petrochemical businesses, you know, and things like that. And they're treating United a little bit like that. So this is the conversation I have in my head here where I'm like, that's the bit that I don't agree with because you're treating it like a business and United is a family club. But if it comes down to the numbers and it comes down to we're in a bit of a financial shit show and we need to make these decisions, that's fine. I don't know for a fact, I don't know concrete fact that they had to make these decisions. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they did it just as a cost-saving exercise in general anyway, you know? I don't know. We've had people who are really, really good, and we've had on the channel before, Kieran Maguire, saying there's a lot of scaremongering going on. He was saying, I think the PSR threshold for United is, or the threshold in general is around 70, and United are around 50 at the minute. So we're okay. We're sound. We make about £600 million a year, but a lot of it is paying off transfers, right? The credit card, whatever you want to call it, facility that it was using to buy players. Recruitment, one of the biggest ones, is the biggest asterisk that you could put out there. I'll just be back in a minute. Delivery guy here, for fuck's sake. Oh, I've left my glasses. Oh. Why is it the most awkward timings? Always the most awkward timings when you're midpoint and just something happens, and now I can't even remember what I was talking about. And also now I'm slightly out of breath, so breathe. Get your comments in. Very quiet in the chat. Smash like on the video. Where was he at? Scaremongering. Kieran Maguire. I would advise you to listen to Rio Presents when he's got him. He speaks about it really, really well. And actually surprised me with quite a lot of things he was saying. And his take on Ineos is certainly interesting. But I will repeat myself whilst I get my breath back and pretend that my lungs aren't absolutely collapsing. Oh. Okay. So, I was looking at something before, right? And I'll put it on the screen, actually, because I think it's just interesting to discuss. So, how Manchester United's head count has grown. So, average employees by year, according to the club's accounts, right? So, we're almost 1,200 staff members at the club. From a business perspective, right? Obviously, there is sentimental things involved in there because people losing a job. We work in a climate where, we are working class people. People who are watching this right now, myself included, people on the channel, we are all working class people, right? And if we was to get sacked tomorrow, people have bills to pay, people have families to feed. It is never, ever, ever nice. Ever. So that, obviously, we are not fans of, and obviously we don't want. But because it's been ran so badly, they're having to, they're fucking doing fruit and stuff instead of meals. And that's, why go to that extreme and bring the bad PR on yourselves if it if they don't need to do it? Do you know what I mean? I don't get why you wouldn't just do it for the sake of it, would you? So I'm really, really torn with this. Obviously, there's a moral side to it where you're like, I don't want people to lose their jobs. I genuinely don't. I think it's really, really sad. I know people that work at United in multiple different departments, from groundsmen to social media bits to other bits. I know people that work at the club, and if they text me saying they've let me go, which they could well be one of them. They're making more redundancies. There's going to be another 200 jobs that have been lost. And we had hints of this when Ratcliffe first came in, and the people who were working from home, back in the offices, the first cuts were made. You go through the whole list, right? This is what Ineos have done, basically, since they have come in. Again, I can put this on the screen for you, it's no problem, if I can find it. I think it's on my phone, actually. I thought this was really, really interesting to see, because it feels like they've been here for 5 years already, but they've only been here, 18 months? Something like that, along the lines of that. Which is crazy. There it is. Right, let me put this on the screen, and this is fascinating, honestly, people. Bear with me. Alright. Save that. Swap this around. Swap it around, laddie. Okay, so we can bang this on the screen now. That is absolutely tiny. If you could read that, fair play to you. I'm not sure if you can read that, to be fair. But I saw this on Twitter. Sorry, I don't know who it was. I'll shout out whoever it was if I do find out. But this is what basically I was looking at. So canteen food scrapped, £1 million per season. That's saving, apparently. Stewards' bonuses scrapped for working 10 games. £10 per steward. So again, what that works out as, I don't know. Large number of club-employed stewards replaced by agency staff. So, cost cutting there. 250 jobs cut last summer, obviously including another 200 this year, which is unknown. But apparently the 250 job cuts last summer, 40 to 45 million per year. Apparently that's saving. Now, I don't know what these people are on, but that sounds like quite a lot, doesn't it? It sounds like quite a bit. Payment to former United Players Association cancelled, which caused an uproar. Christmas party cancelled, which apparently saved £250,000. 250 grand for a Christmas party. Okay, now. £100 Christmas bonuses replaced by £40 M&S vouchers up to 50k. That's saving. I think these figures have got to be fucking way off. They've got to be way off. Free coach travel to the FA Cup final for staff, which was scrapped, which is £20 per staff member. That saved up to 18 grand. Corporate credit cards and chauffeured cars scrapped for some staff. Scouting department's been cut. Sir Alex Ferguson's ambassadorial role ended. We know that saved a couple of £1 million. There was an uproar about that at the time. Pay cuts for other ambassadors, including Brian Robson, Dennis Irwin, and Andy Cole. Lunch boxes for matchday staff scrapped. Number of programmes given to corporate guests cut. Concessions scrapped for adult and child tickets. Euro ticket collected, replaced by digital tickets. We've seen stuff in the canteen, food being replaced. Mate, loads of stuff. And they would have, basically what would have happened is when the Glazers when they announced looking for, strategic alternative or whatever you want to call it, right? They was looking for someone to save him, to drag him out the mud. They probably got advanced by a financial. If you continue doing what you're doing, you're going to run this club into the ground and you're going to lose out on millions, billions, arguably, right? So Jim has come along. He said, listen, lads, I'll take this shit show on. I'll improve it in the football department. I'll make sure everything is working fluid and smoothly as it should be doing. Obviously, I want a cut of the club, but this is how I'm going to do it and this is what's going to change around. And they probably turned around and went, look, this is the financial situation that we're in. This is how fucked we are. This is the reasons why we need it sorting out. It's like, okay, well, I'll inject, I'll give you £1.2 billion or whatever it was. I want 28% equity stake, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a financial expert, obviously. And then we'll take it from there. And it's just been a shit show. It's been an utter shit show. Punch Paint, big up Real Reds Talk. Nick with expert analysis as always. Amorim versus McKenna is how I'm looking at this matchup. I can't predict these players' performances. We must win games we're supposed to win. Starting off good would be a place to start, in my opinion. I mean, I'm sick of starting games so slow, seeing absolutely nothing in the first half, and then something final in the second half appears. How many times has that happened this season? Go just Southampton game, top of my head. 1-0, dominated by Southampton. I'm pretty sure it was at Old Trafford as well. And people are like, what the fuck is going on? And then the last 10 minutes, Ahmad scores a hat-trick and pulls us out of it. Bruno Fernandes scores a free kick. We're 2-0 down at Goodison Park in the 70th minute. We go on to draw the game. Ugarte steps up and scores as well. You can go through a whole catalogue of games this season where we've done that. Speaking of catalogues and going through games, I'm going to do a members video. And I don't know why I'm doing that. It's like I'm not going to do an Italian accent. I'm going to do a members video on Andre Onana and why it's time for him to go. And why he shouldn't be Manchester United's number one. So that'll be dropping at some point this week. I can't guarantee what day it'll be. But that is the next members video if you are a member. If not, click the join button next to the notification bell for exclusive content and a little badge next to your name and become a real Red Ultra, people. Glenn Blow saying we're seriously done over by Chelsea with the Mason Mount deal. Yeah, that now in hindsight was bad. If Mason Mount could stay fit, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Genuinely. For the same reasons that I mentioned before about why it would be perfect in this Amorim system. It really, really would be good, but... yeah, if I could fly in from America to protest on March the 9th, I would do it. Aside from emptying the stadium, have United fans ever considered a 70,000 sit-in, refusing to leave after the match? To get 70,000 people to agree on one thing, it's not going to happen, Punch. It's not going to happen. You can't even get a section of United fans, 10 people to agree on one thing, let alone 70k. It's really, really difficult. I think the one thing that united a lot of people was the Super League. I was at the protest of Super League. I was on the pitch at Old Trafford, and it was just everyone was like fuming that they had the audacity to try and create this Super League and fucking leave the other clubs and ruin grassroots football and all this kind of stuff. That was like the one time we're seeing everyone on the same page together. Like, fuck this, we are not letting this happen. And I wish they had the same attitude towards the Glazers at times and certain things. And I think the majority of them, I don't think there's a United fan that likes the Glazers, but I think a lot of people are being clouded by Ineos at the minute and thing that's going on there. So, but look, everyone's entitled to their opinion. That's what football is about. Now, moving on to some transfer news. Let's discuss something a bit more positive and bubbly, because I feel like for the past 2 weeks, we've just been talking about cuts and people losing their jobs and performances on the pitch, and everything is just a dark cloud at the minute, isn't it? Everything's a dark cloud. So let's talk about some positivity. We had some news coming out today, and I have to shout out MCFCMPB, I think it is. I can't say it. I can't say the thing. You know what I'm on about. It's aggregator account on Twitter, who sourced this from a tier 1 journalist in Turkey. He is like top dog. The Romano of Turkey, let's call it. And especially when it comes to news like Galatasaray and stuff. So he's saying that Victor Osimhen wants to join Manchester United. It is his number one priority as a player. Obviously, we're desperate for a striker. I'm sure Amorim would absolutely love to take her. If you said, can I put Osimhen in your squad now, mate? It'd be like, yeah, please. I will go and pick him up myself. Physical, quick, strong, great finisher. He's a bit of a brute. Dare I say, is it a lazy comparison to say Drogba? I feel like he could do that really because Drogba was one of those players who revolutionised that single number 9 role, wasn't it? Because it was 4-4-2 for so long, and he was that strong and powerful. Like, he could hold the ball up, he could push 2 defenders off. I feel like Osimhen's a very similar kind of mould. I don't know if people agree. So, to bring him in, you know, again, experienced. Look what he did for Napoli, won titles, has that winning feeling about him, you know. He's obviously doing really well for Galatasaray at the moment. He would be really, really good. The one thing I keep coming back to on this, and I've said it a million times, and I'll keep saying it, we had Laurie Whitwell, who I put up there as one of the best journalists covering Manchester United, right? He is solid when it comes to journalism. And he put out about Gyökeres saying the financial package would be too much for United. So they was looking at alternatives. They were mentioning names like Liam Delap and Dominic Calvert-Lewin and these kind of players. So if that is the case, then why on earth would they go and sign Osimhen? Osimhen's the same age as Gyökeres. He's going to cost the same price, around £70 million. His wages are going to be pretty buffed up as well, probably more than Gyökeres. I think Osimhen would cost more as a financial package than Gyökeres was. And Amorim's worked with Gyökeres before. So the transition period would be less. That's why I can't figure out in my head. I don't think we're going to sign Osimhen in the summer. Because logic in my head dictates that we wouldn't. But we are still seeing a lot of stuff from it. Tier 1s from Turkey talking about these people. Not just, you know, Chad from round the corner. Let me know, Osimhen or Gyökeres. Which one you going for and why? To kind of round this conversation off, we need goals. I was looking before. Manchester United's top 5 goal scorers in the Premier League this season. Bruno Fernandes, 6 goals. Amad Diallo, 6 goals. Rashford, 4 goals. He's not played for us since fucking early December. I think he was on the bench against Forest. That's how long ago he's not played for us. And he's still 3rd top goal scorer in the league. Zirkzee, 3 goals. Garnacho, 3 goals. If that doesn't say we need an experienced killer up top, I don't know what does. We are crying out for it. That is number 1 priority above anything. Above goalkeeper, above centre-back, above midfielder, and above a wing-back. I know we're crying out for a wing-back. And I know, because Carl Anka drilled this into my head, basically saying about, it matters about the whole team as well, providing for the striker. I get that. But I think there are certain players who are kind of anomalies that you could put them in a bit of a shit show and they will still score goals because they're that good. You know, you always have a team who's kind of fighting relegation, but if they have a world-class number 9 or someone who's top, I don't know what you want to call it. Someone who's basically an unbelievable striker. It can transform you completely. Goals win you games. Again, you can go through a catalogue at United this season, last season, the chances that we've missed, even in the last game. Or was it the Spurs game? The Garnacho chance that he missed. And you're like, oh my fucking God. If that's Harry Kane or someone at the end of that, he's bagging that 10 times out of 10. So we are crazy. I really need a goal scorer in this team. Because I feel sorry for Højlund almost. Because he's obviously not at that level. He shouldn't be playing for United. But he's our only out-and-out striker that we've got at the minute. The only one. Xerxes not even a striker. You know, we've got Cheeto obviously coming through the ranks. But you don't want to force his development. You want to, you know, drip feed him in. But I do feel like he might be forced a little bit now. Because of how bad Højlund's been this season. You know? So I hope they're already sorting out that striker position now as we speak. I hope when we get into the summer and as soon as the window opens, it's welcome Victor, welcome Victor. But which Victor will it be? Osimhen or Gyökeres? Fascinating times, people. Fascinating times. Right, I'm going to leave it at that. We'll be back later on, 6, 7 o'clock with the Ipswich preview. Do not miss it. Score predictions, team predictions, tactical talk, all that jazz. Quick fire questions as well on top of that. Appreciate every single one of you if you're watching this live or watching this later on. I'll catch you in the next one. See you in a bit.